What is up, everyone? I am Joe DeHoyos. I'm host of Beyond the Woodline. Um, Real quick before we get started, for those who may or may not know, I am the executive director for the JRG, which stands for the Jevning Research Group. It's headed up and founded by Mr. William Jevning. He's got like 50 years plus experience in the Bigfoot world. He was friends with Renee DeHenden and John Green. Those are considered two of the four pioneers in the Bigfoot world. Um, yeah, he was friends with those guys since he was a teenager. Um, and he, of course, heads up the Jevning Research Group. It's the JRG on Facebook. If you want to join this team, you can shoot me an email, beyond.woodline@gmail.com. We've got teams in New York State, Florida, Tennessee, Michigan, Ohio, here in Texas where I'm at, Louisiana, New Mexico, Oklahoma, California, Oregon, Washington State, and I know I'm missing a couple of others. If you're in a state and you want to join one of these teams, like I said, shoot me an email. We'll get you guys started. And even if you want to start your own team, you know, uh, you're more than welcome to do that as well. And we network with a bunch of guys, a bunch of other teams. So we know people in all the states. So if you want to meet somebody, go out with them. Yeah, let us know. We'll make it happen. But we will vet you. We will vet anyone we set you up with. Because unfortunately, there are some crazy people in this world, and we try to make sure everyone is safe. And, we ask that you do the same too. We always say research the researcher, right? So, yeah, with all that being said, I know you guys don't tune in to hear me ramble on all night long. Tonight I have with me Mr. Ben. How are you doing, Ben?
I'm doing excellent, Joe, and great to see you again, and really happy to be on Beyond the Woodline again. This is
Yeah,
my second time,
we were talking about it. That it's been almost 3 years, but yeah, man, time. I don't know where time goes. It just seems like I thought it was like a year, really, honestly.
it
You
feels
know,
like that. It feels like
yeah, yeah. I know when we initially met, I saw you on TikTok and you were all over TikTok, and then you kind of took a break. Now you're back. Are you back in full force, or are you just kind of coming in and out?
so. I wouldn't say quite full force, but I am back to a more what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit more frequent. So before I was making maybe 2 or 3 videos a day, really covering everything that was happening, especially 2023. We had a lot of insane events closer towards the end of that year, tapered off a little bit, but I'm coming back at a frequency that is allowing me to live my life, cover the phenomenon, as well as keep my sanity.
Yeah, man, I totally understand that. Sometimes this field can be overwhelming, and really, when you're creating content, it takes up a lot of your time. It really does. I don't think people understand that. People who don't create content, and I'll be honest, I'm not someone with 20,000 followers or anywhere near that. Uh, so, but even still, I'm doing this little podcast, and it takes time to do it. It takes time to put it together. It takes time to look for guests, to respond to emails. Sifting through people that send me stories and experiences. It takes a lot of our time, and but I honestly, I love doing it, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, yeah. So like 2023 was the last time we were on together. That was right around the same time, also, when I guess the big disclosure right from the U.S. government was coming out. Was that about the same time, right? Yeah, I was thinking about that, and then that was the whole Las Vegas thing, right? Um, have you even kept up with that family? Do you know anything about them, or has anything happened to them since then? Do you know?
So yeah, so I can actually fill you in. This is perfect. It's almost like the sequel to everything that happened with that incident. And I'm glad you brought up both of those things, because I think there's more tying both of those stories together than a lot of people realize. I made a few videos on it, but I don't think it grasped the audience that I really hoped it for. But I'll circle back to how they're connected. But to answer your question on the family, so when we last did the podcast, I believe it was the Sunday, which was either 2 or 3 days after the article dropped about the Las Vegas family, which happened the end of April, early May. So it took about 6 weeks, if I can remember, for the story of the Las Vegas family encountering those aliens to actually hit mainstream media. After that, Angel only did 2 interviews. Both of those interviews were with myself and another podcaster. I do forget his name, but after that, he just disappeared. He was on a live with me. He was showing myself and the audience the location outside in his backyard. And suddenly, as if somebody had called him or called him off, said, "Hey, you need to get off live." And he just said, "Hey, I need to leave." And he went dark. For the next few months after that, I couldn't get in touch with him other than a few messages saying, "Hey, we're okay. We just don't want the attention." And I put out a few videos saying, "Hey guys, leave Angel's family alone." But it wasn't for about, I want to say 7 months that he reappeared. He started doing interviews with podcasters and YouTubers. At that time, I'd kind of taken a little bit of a break, so I didn't really re-engage, but nothing more really happened from the story other than just him doing the media circuit, going around and talking to everybody.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the most fascinating events in recent times. Really, it was. What do you make of that?
So I've stated from the beginning, I've always believed Angel. I've always stuck by his side in what he saw and what he experienced. It must have been traumatizing. However, I do think there was another purpose for the story and why it got so much traction and why it hit the mainstream media. And I'm going to kind of circle back to what we were talking about with the David Grusch, the government whistleblower, coming out and essentially saying the government has retrieved alien craft. To fill in any of the viewers who need a little bit of a recap, at the beginning of June 2023, there was a high-ranking Pentagon official named David Grusch who came out and revealed to the world that the government wasn't just aware that they had retrieved craft, but they were also reverse engineering it. And this was done at both the government level and a private aerospace company level. So they're very notable companies were doing this, and that they had also retrieved extraterrestrial or non-human intelligence is the preferred nomenclature now. Anyway, that happened at the beginning of June, right? So as I mentioned, I believe Angel went through this, and I'm bringing up the dates because it is important, I believe. So that happened at the end of April, early May. Angel's experience with the extraterrestrials in Las Vegas. The beginning week of June was the whistleblower, David Grusch, coming out and really filling in the public. Now, for anybody who's involved in media, especially ufology, there's a pretty common step process for how these things hit media. They'll go from the smaller journals to the mid-level, like online newspapers, to mainstream media if it's a big enough story. You can look at like things like the Miami Mall incident, things of that nature, which I'm sure we can touch on later. But with the David Grusch story and the whistleblower story, at the beginning of June, all of the ufologists in the community were waiting for that to hit mainstream media. And we were watching it a 3 or 4 day cycle where it was just about to hit. And then on the day it was supposed to like hit, where, suddenly we were noticing BBC's writing articles about it. I know BBC's pretty big, but we're waiting for like CNN, Fox, right? That morning, and I remember going to sleep, I was supposed to move that day, was when the Las Vegas alien news story just went everywhere. Everybody was talking about it. And suddenly you couldn't Google UFO or alien without finding the Las Vegas story. And the strange part for me, I started connecting the dots a few weeks after our last podcast, was that the weird part was it took about 6 weeks, almost exactly, for the Las Vegas story to hit mainstream news. Something like that revealed generally, especially with the police body cam of something striking the ground, that would usually happen immediately. It seemed almost weaponized in a sense. So my theory, my personal hypothesis, is that when David Grusch came out and said, "Hey, the government is collecting this material, we are reverse engineering it," whoever is in charge of that, Black Ops program that doesn't want this getting out said, push the button on let's pay the media off a little bit to start pushing this narrative of the Las Vegas alien story, because it'll do it'll accomplish two things. It'll make everybody looking it up just think it's some, you know, forgettable, weird, meme worthy occurrence, and then B, it'll drown out any search results of the whistleblowing, right? It was too perfect. The timing was insanely perfect. And other people, when I brought that theory up, they said, well, that doesn't really make any sense because people will still be looking up aliens. But I even tried it myself. If you had Googled UFO, UAP, alien, anything, for the first 10 pages, it was just all about Angel and his family for Las Vegas.
Right.
Because nothing really ever came of that after. But the David Grush story, it kind of came and went. It didn't really take more time up in the attention of the public until the hearings and the congressional hearings started happening. So I think it served its purpose. So that's my theory on what I make of it. I do think it happened, but I don't think it was necessarily a smoking gun per se, or something that's I think it was purposely weaponized to overshadow the whistleblowing, because that, in my opinion, was the biggest story of 2023. And often when we do look back on 2023, it's the Las Vegas story that is given more attention, right?
Right. Yeah. And you know, one of the crazy things about that is that when you hear him talk about it, I mean, I believe that they definitely saw something. You know, I just, when I first heard him talking, and even like in the few clips that, you know, that I personally have seen of him after that had happened, I just don't think that that they just saw a rock fall out of the sky. I just don't think so, you know. And even in the video, they were all pretty startled at whatever was walking around in that little I don't know what kind of little courtyard it was. They had, I know there was like a forklift there or something, some kind of heavy machinery, you know. They were, you know, they were pretty shaken up, you know.
Yeah, and you can really tell that just by hearing Angel speak, that he was pretty terrified, and he wasn't interested in the phenomenon before that. It wasn't something like he wasn't a UFO or non-human intelligence enthusiast. He was just somebody that got kind of caught up in the middle of this. I think some frightening things happened to him behind the scenes that we can't really confirm, because it clearly scared him off. Because at first he was very wanting to tell his story. The way I got into contact with him was he left a comment on the video I did of the Las Vegas story. So as I mentioned, I was moving. I caught the story. I did a video of it probably like 2 or 3 a.m. because I knew it was going to go viral. I woke up to about 250,000 views on the video, and I noticed he had commented, and I wasn't sure at first, but I went and checked his profile. I'm like, this is it. But the comment was, the news didn't, you know, do me justice. I'm paraphrasing here. But they didn't tell my story. So I messaged him. I said, hey, come on my live tonight. So he was able to jump on live, and it was mostly about clearing the truth and really showing what he experienced through his own eyes. And it just seemed odd that he was so willing to go out in front of people, and then suddenly nothing. Like, it was 6 to 7 months of just silence from him and his family. I had offers from a lot of people that make documentaries as well as work in the media that wanted me to be essentially the middleman. And like, I'm going to be completely honest with you, Joe, like, I love UFOs. I love aliens. And that story definitely helped me grow my audience. So of course, being the middleman, that would have helped me grow my audience even more. So I would love to work with Angel, as well as, you know, get him in touch with documentarians, because he seemed to trust me, but it never really went past that. So something spooked him, right? Something pushed him over the line. And I think that's more telling. Of course, I've scraped over the videos. I'm going to be honest, Joe. I didn't see anything in them that I really thought that's, you know, an alarm bell for non-human intelligence. But just everything around it did. Like, somebody geolocated the object falling from the sky in the police cam video to Angel's backyard. They showed it on Google Maps. Angel showed the strange things in his backyard. Just the videos, there were some weird things in them, but it's kind of hard to say with the graininess of it, right? But in the end of the day, I do choose to believe him and what he experienced.
Yeah, and you know, all things considering, it was you know, like I said, you can't really see anything. Definitely nothing definitive, but at the same time, it was kind of disturbing. You know, it was one of those. You know, so yeah, so you know, and I know that kind of stuff where a person wants to come out and talk about their experiences, they get silenced, or and that happens even in the Bigfoot field. Um, People are told, quit talking about this. I've got a really good friend of mine. He had a Bigfoot encounter. He called my buddy Will Jevning, who at that time lived in, I don't remember, he lived in Northern California or Washington State. He lived in one of those places. He doesn't live there anymore. But yeah, he called Will, and Will said, "Hey, well, Joe's down there in your area. Uh, I live, an hour south of Walter, and uh, me and Walter talked for like 2 hours on the phone. And the next day, he called me and told me that he got 2 phone calls telling him to shut the blank up." Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I've never experienced that in doing what I've done with the UFO field, but I don't know how I'd react to that, to be honest. That'd be quite a terrifying experience to have, especially wondering like who is this? Who's calling the shots right now, right?
So, one thing I wanted to ask you too, if the government knows more uh, than what they admit so far, why do you think they keep it such a secret?
So there's several reasons I think it could possibly be. My position on it changes the more that either information comes out or gets sidestepped, but I'll go through a few of them. The first would be the reasoning being that free energy or whatever these crafts are powered by would essentially eliminate fossil fuels and the dependency on them, right? It would completely destroy that infrastructure of dependability on our fuel, on the energy grid. So that would be one thing, right? So that's definitely a very powerful group of people and group of corporations. So that's one pretty straightforward theory of why they're trying to keep quiet on it. I think there's a little bit more to it though, and I'll go slowly down into the rabbit hole of why. So that's the first thing. The second thing would be alluding to what David Grush and some other whistleblowers came out regarding the retrieval programs, the reverse engineering, is that they kind of alluded to there being an almost a cold, quiet civil war happening between the US government as well as these aerospace companies that have retrieved these crafts, whether they've fallen into the wrong hands and there's essentially these very powerful corporations that have gained access to this technology and the US government isn't necessarily in the lead, right? We don't know exactly who has the most in terms of UFO tech, of who's leading the way, what's happening behind the scenes, because it's all shrouded behind a cloud. It's cloaked, basically. We can't see exactly what is going on. So that's another thing that, it's a little bit more political, a little bit more behind the scenes, but that could be another thing. And the third theory, a little bit deeper down into the rabbit hole, is that there is the phenomenon, or whoever are behind the scenes for the phenomenon, are more ingrained into our society than we are aware of. And they're the ones that are essentially stopping us from finding these crafts, right? So there's tons of reasons of why they could be hiding it from us. I do believe that we're owed an explanation, or at least some visibility into what the phenomenon is, but it's so hard to look at it without a lens of is this propaganda? Is this being used as a tool for manipulation? Everything, even in conspiracy theories now online, it's like, who's really writing this? Who's pushing this agenda, right? So it's trying to sift through it. And with AI and with everything, it's harder to really find that truth. But those are my three top theories. Maybe it's all three combined, right? Like we won't really know until we get to the bottom of it.
Right. Yeah, and I kind of believe that too, that it's, all those three theories combined. And I think that maybe them not coming forward and say this is everything we know, right? I think part of that is because maybe they just really don't even know what they have. Does that make sense? Like they don't want to show us what they have because they don't really know what they have, and that
Yes.
can kind of send some people into a, I don't know, if panic is the right word for it. You know what I'm saying?
Ontological shock.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's part of it, and I'm okay with that. I kind of get that.
And honestly, Joe, I was that was 130% my theory about 2.5, 3 years ago. And what I really stuck behind because it just seemed to me, um, so the longer I'm more involved, especially like within Are They Really Here? And just so you know, like the last couple of years, I did take some time off of content creation. I've always been still involved with the phenomenon and researching it, obviously, because it's a big passion of mine. But with that being said, I used to say, like, I have a feeling, exactly what you just said. And that was my personal belief. But with what's been happening the last couple of years, at least, and I don't want to kind of stray from the conversation too much about, cryptids, extraterrestrials on here, but I just to sift a little bit, like politically, I think we are witnessing I think they do know because of just them trying to hide it from us. Like, look at what was released earlier this year, like that huge batch of files. And I don't want to go too far into it just because it's kind of a dark area, but I think there's a little bit more of a organized effort to keep this from us. And that makes me think there's more nefarious reasons behind it. Do you follow?
Yeah, and yeah, that makes a lot of sense too.
But my hope, like I still don't know, but I hope at the end of the day, it's just like they have it, but they don't know what to do with it. And they're just like, that's best case scenario, in my opinion, just because it's the state of the world we live in is just, it's a crazy time. And it really, it's just hoping for the best, right?
So, with all that, do you think that contact has happened with whether it's our government or any governments in the world? Do you think, like, I'm talking true contact, like, hey, we're from this place. We're here to say hi to you guys. Do you think something like that has really happened?
So I think so. I think that have you heard of the old story of Eisenhower meeting with the Greys?
Yes.
In
Yeah.
the
Yes.
Green
He was gone for like 3 days or something like that, right?
Right. So I do believe that numerous other politicians have come out and basically confirmed that, at least. I believe Paul Hellyer, the Canadian defense minister, came out and said that as well. And don't quote me on this, I'll have to double check, but the Israeli defense minister as well mentioned something in that,
Right.
that Trump had actually made contact with them as well. Now, I think 100% there has been some sort of contact made. Is it continuous? I'm not sure. The theory behind the Eisenhower Treaty, or the I can never say it properly, Grady Treaty, was that basically we were given technology in order for them to do experiments on us, whoever is responsible for the phenomenon. If that were the case, I would believe it wouldn't really be beneficial for them to continuously communicate with us, but there is a chance. It makes me wonder if it's still going on, but part of me does believe that they're more involved with human society than what we really believe. I think so. Robert Bigelow, the CEO of Bigelow Aerospace Company, he's so one of the big ones. And I'm sure you're familiar with Skinwalker Ranch. I believe he owned it at one point.
Yeah.
He came out to James Fox, known UFO researcher, and said, like, they're among us, basically. Like, they are here, they're all around us, we're just not as aware of it. I think that, and I'm not saying they're like shape-shifting or, turning into humans or whatever, but I think they are more present within this planet and this realm than we're aware of. And it's just it's having the senses or the stimuli to pick up on that. It's kind of like when you're walking by, another animal, and I'm not saying that we're similar to animals in the sense of just for the sense of, like, let's say a dolphin might not fully recognize, dolphins are very smart. They might not fully recognize the capabilities of human technology. We recognize we're each intelligent species, but the perspective we have is only based on the perspective we live. So we're not able to pick up on that. Like for all we know, dolphins could be these underwater, UFO creatures. Obviously, I don't think they are, but it's really hard to say until we have the full picture. But I truly do believe they are more involved in society than what we're led to believe.
So you wake up tomorrow morning, there's UFOs landing all over the world. Friend or foe?
I'm going to go with friend first. I'm going to keep a guarded approach to it. But I think it depends on what the first. I think if they were foe, they'd probably attack first. If anybody has the anti-gravity or the ability to cross time and space at that type of momentum, they're most likely going to have the ability to destroy us within seconds, right? So if they're not doing that almost immediately, then I'm going to go with friend at first. I'm going to be a little bit guarded until we know their true intentions, but I do think that it's best to keep an open mind. And I think the fact that Hollywood has been selling us this like alien invasion story for almost a century at this point, with War of the Worlds coming up. I wouldn't even know how old it is now, like the actual story with like Orson Welles selling it on radio. Anyways, I think that I think friend.
Okay. Yeah, and I kind of think that along the same lines, even if they're not necessarily a friend, I don't think they're enemies. I mean, they would have wiped us out a long time ago, And,
right. And it could be neutral. It could be the way that we look at, and I hate to use the analogy on animals again, but let's say how we dissect like frogs. Like, and I'm not trying to put them as superior to us or inferior, but animals or creatures are consistently interacting with one another. We have a bunch of us, like I know people that might step on a frog. I'm the type of person, I'm going to move a frog off the sidewalk so that somebody else doesn't step on it or a car doesn't drive over it. But I know people who wouldn't hesitate to step on a frog. There's scientists who want to dissect the frog, right? When it comes to frogs, like most people are pretty cool with them. But I think if a frog experienced his friend being dissected, he has every reason to believe the rest of the frogs are in danger. But there's no real like overall, like it's not all humans hate frogs. That's how I would look at the phenomenon. Like if extraterrestrials were to come here, some of them might be abducting us. They're probably concerned about our biology and how we operate. Some of them might have nefarious reasons, but maybe some of them just want us to live a peaceful existence. Some of them might be horrified by what we do, just as we would be. I mean, I saw a video of a frog eating another frog on YouTube a few weeks ago, and I was like, that's pretty freaky to watch. I'm not going to assume all frogs are frog eaters, but yeah, I think it's more complex and more gray than just are they good, are they bad. It's a question that we really need to look at from an ethical standpoint, especially when we're coming into contact with another intelligent species, for sure.
Yeah. Or maybe they're like me. Like if I see a frog hopping across the road, I'm like, hey, good luck, buddy. You on your own.
Yeah.
They could be doing that to us too. Hey, good luck there, earthlings.
Yep. Just leave them their own space.
Yeah, there you go. There was another question I wanted to kind of ask you. Let's see. Do you actively take in like experiences? Someone has an experience or an encounter. Do you take in those and investigate them or research them?
Yeah, I would say I do. It depends on how much evidence there is, in regards to it. Usually like when it's on TikTok live and I'm talking with the chat and somebody says, hey, I have an experience, I'd like to share it. I usually will judge how they are interacting with the chat before I bring them on, and then I talk with them. In some scenarios they'll have pictures of crafts, or they'll have experiences they can share in story form. A lot of the time, and I'm sure you can imagine in the UFO community, there's a lot of people who aren't completely, what's the word I'm looking for? Lucid. And you can tell they kind of go off on a bit of a tangent. Like they're convinced it was, Jack Black was actually the one abducting them, and they're certain that that's
Right.
It's a little bit more common than you think, but I do take a lot of experiences in. One of my good TikTok friends, Mike, actually that's how I met him. He came on to a TikTok live, and I found his story just so compelling. He was from Montreal, or he still lives there, but he didn't have any claim. And I actually met him around the same time we met on our last connection for the podcast. It was around the beginning of June, but I was just blown away by his story. There was time missing. If I had the ability to, like, I work a full-time job, so I can't really go out into the field and investigate certain aspects of experiences, but I would love to. Like, if I had the ability to fund and finance Are They Really Here at a mobile level, I absolutely would, but mostly it's just TikTok live interviews and then any evidence they could submit through either photograph or videos.
Okay. All right. And what's one of the more disturbing encounters you've had, whether or not necessarily that you've had or that you've had turned into you, but even if it's something that's relatively well known, is there any experience that kind of bothers you a little bit?
I would say like the big one, and I'm sure you've heard of the Dulce, New Mexico alien wars from 1979. Like, that one does bother me. Of Phil Schneider, an engineer who allegedly shot at some tall grays, and they fired back, burned off his fingers. He ended up getting cancer, and then came out in the 90s and led a press conference on the experience. And then within a year was he ended up taking his own life, but it was under suspicious circumstances. And I actually got into contact with his best friend from growing up, and he said Phil would never do that. Like, Phil was adamant that this happened. So that one did bother me. It's pretty well known, but from the live experiences, as I just brought up Mike, I think Mike's was the most striking just due to the way he told it. And there was time missing. Like, I think it was about 4 or 5 hours of time missing. He went down out of an office building at about 10 p.m. to check out a craft in Montreal, went down to the parking lot, came back upstairs, and there was about 5 or 6 hours missing. I think it was 2 to 3 a.m. by the time he came to, and it really changed his life. Like, I could hear the shakiness in his voice and really how he perceived the world had fundamentally changed at every molecular level.
Okay. Yeah. I do remember that, the one in Dulce, New Mexico. Yeah, I do. It's not something that I think about. Of course, like Roswell or even what's the guy's name? Travis Walton. Think about that a lot.
Yeah.
And then who was the couple that were coming back from Niagara Falls?
Oh yeah, yes. I think of this couple all the time. I pass the street with their last name. This is gonna bug me. It's Bob, and this could really bug me. I legitimately think about Bob.
Yeah. Their granddaughter is a fighter, like an MMA fighter. She was on Joe Rogan's show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was on Joe Rogan's show, and after the show, she told Joe Rogan, "Yeah, my grandparents, was it White? I can't remember their name.
Betty and Barney Hill. That's it."
Yeah, and she tells Joe Rogan after the show. Joe Rogan tells a story that the Betty and Barney Hill were my grandparents. He's like, "What? You didn't say that on the podcast?" Yeah.
I think a lot of people would be very interested in that story more. So, like, that's great that she's a fighter, but I think a lot of Joe's fans in particular are also UFO fanatics and enthusiasts.
Oh yeah, that would have been a great topic to talk about. Yeah, and then of course the incident here in Texas in Dayton, which is right outside of Houston.
The Dayton fire UFO with
right. Yeah,
that one was one of my favorites. I remember one of my first videos I ever made actually too was on that.
Yeah, I've tried to reach out to the family, but I've never gotten a response from them at all.
I've heard that specific encounter was the military testing out a reverse engineered UFO. That's just speculation, but that's what I think the common conclusion to that story is, and that they ended up just getting in the middle of it. But definitely part of the phenomenon for sure. But just a crazy story, just what they went through.
I think I may have told you this on when we did our podcast the first time, but me and my ex father-in-law were fishing. We were in Galveston, and we were sitting on the jetties, but we weren't sitting, we were standing on the jetties, and he was maybe, I don't know, 40, 50 feet down from me to my right. And he goes, "Hey, Joe, look," and he points up. And so I look up to to my left, and there's this round disc that's maybe like 200 feet above us. And, it was right above us, just so slow. It was a clear night. We saw it perfectly. And it's actually like the picture behind you, kind of, but except it was, there were no lights on it at all. And it was so smooth. It was no sound at all. And it was the craziest thing that I had ever seen. There was, man, I don't know, 20 years ago, I guess, at this point now. Yeah. Yeah.
And what time of day was it?
It had to be like 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe 1, 2
Okay.
o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
And so like you said it like was very smooth moving. Like I assume it was probably kind of like a metallic.
You know,
Um,
it was hard to really see any kind of like metal at all. It was like a matte gray. The color was like a
hmm.
matte gray, and the center, like where the light would be on your thing, was black.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And it had like, it looked like panels, maybe 5 or 6 panels that were also black. Yeah.
The panels comes up in a lot of sightings, I think, and it's always interesting too that most sightings of true UAPs or true UFOs don't have lights on them. And anytime we have heard of lights being on the craft, usually they're linked back to um, government like air or aerospace companies. It's
Right.
reverse engineered, right? And because that light is from us, whereas they don't need it for whatever reason.
Right. Yeah. And so I don't know if you're familiar with NASA, but NASA isn't that far away from Galveston at all.
Oh,
Yeah, and then there's a military base in Dickinson, which is also isn't very far. I bet from where we were at, if we were driving, we probably could get to NASA in 30 minutes, and the same thing with that military base. So I've always, at first when it happened, I was like, "Holy shit, we just saw something otherworldly," right? But
mhm.
now I think I lean more towards it was probably something man-made.
Right. You never know though. The fact it didn't have lights tells me that it could possibly be like the lights are the dead giveaway for me when I hear experiences or stories. If I have the lights, typically it is reverse engineered. Maybe they just didn't have them on, but um, uh, you never know for sure. They could have just been checking out. Whoever is responsible for the phenomenon could have been checking out either NASA or the military base.
Yeah, I think that I think that probably a lot of sightings. I don't want to say any kind of percentage or anything like that, but I think a lot of sightings are probably a lot of man-made stuff is probably up there, and they get mistaken, for UFOs. But I did want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the Phoenix Lights? What do you think that was?
Phoenix Lights is one of my favorite UFO stories. It is hard to say because like as I was just mentioning how the lights are a dead giveaway for reverse engineered. I think it was a massive reverse engineered government craft. They were testing it out over Phoenix, and that it malfunctioned. So whatever cloaking device they had over it malfunctioned, and it just went terribly awry. And tens of thousands of people saw it. Like there were multiple
Right.
people who witnessed it, including I'm pretty sure Val Kilmer actually flew either under or over it in
It
a
was
private.
Kurt Russell. It
Kurt
was.
Russell, that's it. That's
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. It's in his report. Yeah. It's in his report.
so that to me is just insane. And one of my favorite parts of the story too is, and it's interesting kind of look up. Sorry, my cat is behind me scratching, but Fife Symington, the governor at the time, I believe he was,
Right.
went on TV maybe the next day in an alien with a guy in an alien costume. He's like, he rolled him out on stage like, "We found the culprit. It's the alien,"
Yeah.
and people were mad, right? They were so angry at Fife for not taking it seriously because thousands of people saw these lights over Phoenix, and I remember watching that video and going, "This is really frustrating that he's doing this." But Fife later actually came out and gave an interview saying, "I saw those lights. I believe that it was UFO, and he was going through, I believe it was a tax fraud trial at the time, or something to do with finances, something extortion maybe. I'm not sure, but he was kind of pushed to do that to blow the steam off of the Phoenix Lights case so that he would inevitably win this trial. And you can actually like look this up. It's like public information. And then so he went out later and said, I saw it. I just want to correct everybody. I'm sorry for kind of throwing jokes that way, but I was kind of forced to by the powers that be. But to me, that even says, like, even the governor saw it. Like, the governor was like, what's that in the sky? So I think it's an incredible story. I do think it is us, but I think it was technology that was reverse engineered from the phenomenon, from non-human intelligence.
Yeah, we got one cool little detail is that my wife, she was actually in Phoenix when that happened.
Oh, cool.
She didn't see it. She saw it on the news. You know?
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so she didn't see it, but she was in Phoenix because that's where her family's from.
Amazing. That would have been quite a sight to see. I would have loved to. I think I was maybe 4 or 5 at the time when it happened, so I would have probably been too young to understand, but it would have been definitely cool to witness.
So is there a difference between UFO and UAPs? Is there a difference, or is just one and the same?
So technically UAP can be used for, because UAP isn't aerial. So UAP stands for unidentified anomalous phenomena, which can pretty much include anything from sky, space, water, ground, anything that's just bizarre, that is unidentifiable. It used to stand for unidentified aerial phenomenon. And it was pretty much interchanged with UFO. It was just kind of brought about, I think, to get past the tinfoil hat perception of UFO. But in reality, like a UFO is a UAP, but not all UAP are UFOs. But I use them interchangeably. I don't think that it's, some people get really upset and like, you should really use UAP. It's the professional way. But it's like, it's at the end of the day, it's not, they're pretty interchangeable, but UAP, that's how I distinguish them. I like using UFO because it's a little bit more, it's been there for years, right? Like that's in the, not just the history of it, but also the culture of it. UAP does sound really cool. So I think both have a space in UFO culture. It's still ufology. It's still, we grew up UFO hunters, UFO this, UFO that, but that's how I really distinguish it. And some people in the live get really mad about it, but that's, I kind of put my foot down on that.
Yeah. You'd be surprised in the Bigfoot world, people get mad if you say Bigfoot, or people get mad if you say Sasquatch.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, man. I mean, a lot of people don't care, but there are camps. The Sasquatch group don't want you saying Bigfoot. The Bigfoot don't want you saying Sasquatch, because Bigfoot kind of, they say Bigfoot encompasses like all the known names for Sasquatch, where like, and then people on the Sasquatch side say that it's insulting to say Bigfoot.
I always thought I've always dabbled a little bit in the Bigfoot Sasquatch. Like I obviously love cryptids, and Bigfoot and Sasquatch is my absolute favorite of all of them. I always thought it was like a geographical thing, just from my witnessing. Like, there's the Yeti, there's the abominable snowman. Like I thought it was like just this worldwide phenomenon. And so I always just assumed, I didn't really look into it too much, that Bigfoot and Sasquatch were more regional dialect naming conventions for it.
Yeah. Like even me, like when I was growing up, I thought Bigfoot was just like in the Pacific Northwest, and at that I thought there was like one, and it's funny when now when I hear people I hear people talk about it, and people are like have no interest in the subject, and they have a sighting, and they'll tell me, I thought it was just that, the one from that old black and white film, old film,
Yeah, I love that film. To me, I still think that I forget the exact name of the film, but I still like wholly believe it. I don't know if you're obviously very into the Bigfoot Sasquatch world, but what do you think about the film? Do you think it was real or faked? Because it was like right around the time.
Yeah, I think it was real. The Patterson Gimlin film. Oh yeah.
Yes, Patrick.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I always want to call this a Zapruder film, like JFK, just because it's like in my mind at the same timeline. But yeah, the Patterson Gimlin film, the muscles on it are just
Yeah.
like, you can look at it, you can see it move. And Planet of the Apes came out what, a year or two before or after, and it was
After, yeah.
nothing like that.
Yeah.
And that's Hollywood, AAA Hollywood movie producing that kind of.
So the guy who was like the lead costume designer, his name was Bill Munns, and he's actually researched Bigfoot also, and researched this film in particular. And he's like, the reason why in the Planet of the apes were clothed was so they could hide the seams, they could hide the zippers, and they could hide they had like these little, they weren't buttons, but they were like like the latches.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So that's why they were closed, so they could hide all that stuff.
Mm.
And the one thing he said too was, you could put a man in a costume and you could fake that, right? He goes, but what you can't fake are the proportions, like from the shoulder to the elbows to the
Right.
wrists, the hips to the knees to the ankles. This creature, it was totally out of human proportion.
Mm.
That was another thing that that he saw.
And yeah, and it looks like a real living being in the film. And I've looked at that a ton of times. I've watched like the CSI guys go through it frame by frame, like analyzing it, and I absolutely I'm absolutely on board with that being the most truthful evidence. And I'm sure there's probably more out there that you can tell me a little bit more about, but like that one really sold me, and I remember watching that and just being blown away by it. But yeah, I think there's a very high likelihood of there being some type of primate that exists within the deep recesses of our uncivilized land, right? Like I think it's not too far out there, and I think people look at it like, oh, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, but to me, it's like that would make total sense. But we don't even know what's in more than 5% of the ocean. Why do we assuming we know everything, right?
And it's funny because when we go out researching, one of the first times I went out with my buddy Shane, he had never been out like in the forest like that. He's like, dude, you could put a T-Rex back here, nobody would ever see it. And that's the truth. That forest is just so thick.
Yeah.
But I mentioned, I had done, a guy's show 2 days ago. I did his show, and he asked me an interesting question. And I want to kind of ask you kind of the same question. You remember when Finding Bigfoot came out, right? And it was kind of cheesy. It was kind of silly. And he asked me, he goes, well, what do you think the show did for people? And I told him I wasn't like a big fan. I loved hearing the encounters from the people, right? And I think it kind of did bring it to the forefront, to the forefront and into the mainstream media a little bit too. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think like shows like the X-Files did for the UFO community?
The X-Files specifically, I think, brought it to be a little bit more of more accepted in almost, it almost felt like slow drip disclosure of, hey, there are government programs that are looking into this. And I think there's cause to believe that it could have been part of that. I think there are certain shows that have hurt in a way. Like I absolutely loved Ancient Aliens when it was huge about 15 years ago, but I think it did a little bit of damage for the discourse around it. Like it depends on the content and the way they're presenting it. X-Files, I think, did a good job. Ancient Aliens, as fun, as interesting as it was, it got so weird to the point where it was like everything was aliens. It's like, okay, guys, like, sure, I can see the case behind this, maybe being aliens, but it was getting to the point where like, did aliens write the Bible? Here's why we think. And it was like really fun to watch, especially like if you were just, hanging out with a couple friends late night on a weekend, you had a couple drinks and you're just enjoying it. But to me, like that, I think at a certain point, it got more people interested. So it's like there's a pro and a con. It's a catch-22, double-edged sword, if you will.
Yeah. I think so too. And I think even like Hollywood also, with their portrayal of the evil alien type, I think they kind of, even though it was kind of cheesy still, and I think it kind of helped out a little bit, because people were more willing to talk about that kind of stuff, And I definitely, like for my parents' era, them growing up, they couldn't talk about any of this stuff,
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And my, like, I had a bit of an older dad. Like, my dad was born in 1939, but he's the one who really got me into um the alien and UFO topic. And I remember he actually remembered the newspapers from when Roswell happened. I think he was about 8 years old. But like, he was telling me, like, at the time it was a social way of ruining your life to bring that stuff up because it was just so out there. But he's kind of the one that led me into learning about the phenomenon, be really interested in it. So it's crazy how far we've come. And I mean, we live in such a weird time now. Like, you could go outside and claim that you're, an entire alien race, hive mind in one body, and somebody would just look at you and be like, this guy's filming a YouTube video. Like, it's just so weird out there now. You know what I mean? So strange times we live in.
So this is even an older event that happened. What do you think about the Battle of Los Angeles?
Battle of Los Angeles is probably one of the funniest stories, I think. Just to recap it for your audience, Battle of Los Angeles was an incident that happened right at the tail end of World War II, in Los Angeles, where a large object or something that the military later claimed was a weather balloon appeared on the beaches of Los Angeles, and the entire military from LA showed up and began firing upon it. And residents around thought it was Armageddon. They thought that Japan was attacking and that they were all going to be destroyed. Some people thought it was the planet Venus they were firing at, like it was just really bright, and so the military was firing at it, couldn't bring it down, which is very bizarre. I think something did happen. I think that something interfered, either from a non-human intelligence standpoint or from I can't really say reverse engineered because we don't know that far back how much technology was, but I think something did happen and they covered it up. Like, it has all the smoke that Roswell had. It had all the smoke of any other encounter that the military actively tried to bury. What exactly happened, I'm not sure, but if an entire military could not bring down a weather balloon, that tells me that, there's something else going on, because, the nuke was dropped on Japan maybe a few months later. It just seems so ridiculous. Oh, we couldn't get down a weather balloon. It doesn't make sense. Something happened.
Yeah, exactly. So I do have one more question. What do you think about mass sightings? Is a mass sighting more credible than a single witness?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so, because they typically do have more lasting impressions on the general public. I mean, we can look at the Ariel School in Zimbabwe, of those school children being visited by that craft. They all had similar encounters and recounting that experience. You brought up Phoenix Lights. That's another one. It was all uniform, right? Varginha, another one in Brazil, also known as Brazil's Roswell. That's, multiple people corroborating the same story across a single geographical location, to me, really propels the evidence that it's credible. And I think those are the stories we need to pay most attention to. And typically they do get the most attention, which is great. But those, in my opinion, are my favorite. I mean, Varginha, I think, is my all-time favorite story. Moment of Contact by James Fox, great documentary. Phoenix Lights, another one. Ariel School in Zimbabwe is very interesting to me as well. Trying to think of some other mass sightings. There's lots of them, but those are the three that I think of that really drive me into the topic.
So if someone's kind of new into this field, and they wanted to like research one of these sightings, whether it was a single witness or a mass sighting, which one would you tell them that, hey, go check this one out?
I think it depends on what I'm trying to accomplish too. Like, if I want somebody to be really interested in the phenomenon, I'm going to say Moment of Contact. Watch Moment of Contact, the documentary, because it's so well done about Varginha, and it really draws people in. And I still have like friends that don't care about this stuff. They'll be like, hey, I watched Moment of Contact. This was crazy. The Phenomenon is another great one by James Fox. And that's probably where I'd start, because Phoenix Lights is great as well. But the thing about Moment of Contact is it also has a creature involved in it, right? So there's also a creature that you can kind of follow its experience through Varginha. Ariel School in Zimbabwe is also great, but it's pretty much just like a craft landed in the schoolyard, told the kids, like, stop littering, stop screwing up the world, or terrible things are going to happen, which is true. And it's a really interesting one to get into, but it's also deep and it's kind of heavy and it really makes you think. And if I'm trying to pull someone in to get more interested in this topic of this conversation, I want them excited about it. I want them to really sink their teeth in. The aerial school in Zimbabwe, maybe a little bit further down, but Virginia first, maybe then Phoenix Lights, then aerial school in Zimbabwe. If they're really interested in the dark stuff, like the Dulce Wars, 1979, Roswell is overdone, so probably not that one, but those would be ones that I would definitely point to, or even ones recent like Las Vegas or the Miami Mall incident.
Okay, yeah. Have you ever seen this one? It's called Two-Face the Gray. I don't know if it's still on Amazon or not, but I know it was on Amazon at one time. And it was a documentary from a paranormal research team. I don't remember if they were from Australia and they came to the United States, or if they were United States, they went to Australia. It was one or the other. And during their investigation of a paranormal place, they thought they captured an apparition. And when they went back to look at the tape, they were like, this doesn't look like an apparition. It looked like a gray, like an alien, right? And they were like harassed from then on. Yes, from like
by who?
The Men in Black.
Oh no.
Yes, and I remember seeing it on Amazon. It was a couple of years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. But it's called Two-Face ... the Gray. Yeah. So anyone needs to check that out.
I will definitely check. I've actually never seen that one. I was just looking at it. Looks like it's on Apple TV for rent, but I need to see this. This sounds
it's really it's like I said, they were like harassed. And they've got the typical Men in Black stories where like the guys come, show up, and then they're like freaking gone.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But with that, man, I want to give you a chance to talk about your channel and what you're doing, and if people want to contact you, where they can find you or how they can contact you.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you so much, Joe, for having me on. It's always great to talk to somebody interested in the phenomenon, and I absolutely love your show. And sometime I'd love to be on, and maybe if you're okay with it, I'd love to have you on one of my lives to talk about.
Oh, shoot, yeah, for sure, man, for sure, yeah.
But yeah, just a little bit about me. So I run Are They Really Here, which is a TikTok channel, Instagram, YouTube. I mostly make short form content surrounding the phenomenon like UFOs and aliens. I have done long form in the past on YouTube. I hope to return to that, but I also go on live, interview individuals about their experiences, learn about it. I'm just out here to explore all areas of the phenomenon and how the way I do it, and what makes, I think, me different from other creators is I don't go about it in a conspiracy theorist type of way. Like you'll never see a video where I'm like, hey, the government's hiding this, or the government's doing this, or aliens are abducting people. I always present, hey, this is the story. This is how we're perceiving it. What do you think? And I try to give the steering wheel back to the viewer to ask themselves that, because I think there's so much with these little black boxes that are in our faces for so many hours a day. It's feeding us information and trying to sell us theories and sell us stories, that I really want to push the philosophy behind things and to keep asking questions, to question everything. And there's too many creators, especially in the UFO world, that are pushing narratives and they're pushing theories down people's throats. And I would want to be a breath of fresh air that's just interested in everything from the theories to the culture, to the history, to the sightings, everything involved in the phenomenon. And that's what I aim to do. It's even in our name, Are They Really Here? It's a question. It is not they are really here. It's are they really here? Because if we can't admit we're wrong and we can't learn or grow, then we stay stuck, right? We stay stagnant. So that's kind of our philosophy, our ethos, if you will. And yeah, you can find me on TikTok at Are They Really Here? Pretty sure my DMs are open. If not, just leave a comment if you want to chat with me about the experience or anything like that. Or go to my Instagram, also at Are They Really Here? And you should be able to find info in there too.
Cool, yeah. And if anyone has any trouble trying to contact him, contact me. I got his email. I will spam him until he contacts you.
Awesome.
Yeah, man, thanks a lot, dude. I really appreciate it, man. You're always great to have on. Hopefully it don't take us 3 years again, but yeah,
definitely not. We'll do it again sooner. But again, thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate it.
All right. And everyone else, I I don't remember the next time I have a show. I'll definitely let you guys know. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I will see you guys next time. You guys have a great night.